Hi guys, and welcome to your daily tarot reading for Wednesday the 24th of April. Thanks for joining me. I'm using the Tarot of Atlantis, a deck I haven't used in ages and ages. Let's have a look at what the cards want you to be aware of. The Three of Chalices, the Ten of Swords, and the Hermit. Okay, so the Three of Cups is usually a celebration between three women who have abundance around them and who are celebrating. And here it's a similar sort of scenario. Although we have a man here lying there in a very kind of entitled position, man-spreading himself, and he's holding a cup, and she seems rather demure. She seems in a kind of servile position, and she seems to be kind of enjoying herself along with him. So we've got the fruit there, we've got the bowls of grapes and the flowers in the trees, and it is abundance. What we also have is the water mirroring this, and that's an element that adds more water to this and kind of gives them a reflection of what they're doing. So there's this element of self-awareness, there's this element of emotional presence and emotional consciousness. So even though he's behaving this way, which seems somewhat insolent, doesn't it, and arrogant, just the body, the positioning seems somewhat arrogant, I feel. And he's doing that despite the fact that the mirror shows him he's doing it. So there's a sense of entitlement here. There's a sense of, I'm entitled to have good things in my life. I'm entitled to be doted upon. I am entitled to have my fun when I want it, how I want it. And I'm entitled to be served. And if this were a film, you know, someone with those kind of senses of entitlement, in a horror film in particular, would take a nasty end, because people get theirs in those kind of films. So there's a sense of self-awareness, but there may be a sense that you are entitled to more than you're entitled to, and your head may be swelling a little bit. So the ego may be hard at work here, saying that you're the center of the universe, you're the one who is the most important, and your needs are what matters. Then we have the Ten of Swords, and the Ten of Swords is usually a man who has got 10 swords in his back and he's lying face down. Here we've got a full-on war scene. We've got two armies battling each other and people being killed and slaughtered, and it's a really, really serious conflict. And there's slaughter and people beating each other to death, and it's really, really serious and traumatic. And that comes from this sense of entitlement. Again, if you are the king, if everything in the world revolves around you, then you're going to step on a lot of people's toes. Like, she may be sitting there acting all demure, but inside she may be seething. And this woman as well, who is kind of having fun with him, she may not want to be having fun with this guy. So it's a celebration that seems phony. And it's reflected, these figures aren't clear in the water, even though the water seems undisturbed. There's a lack of accurate self-perception. And when you don't see yourself for the way you are, and you annoy other people, and you step on their toes, and when you insult them, and you treat them as people who are beneath you, they will react and they will step on your toes in return. And they will stick knives in your back and they will hurt you. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to hurt you anyway. I mean, look at planet Earth and the history we've got. People have always been warring and fighting, but wars and fights happen when one person says, I am absolutely right and I'm not budging, and these other people are wrong, and I'm so certain of my rightness that I am willing to take my army and have these people kill other people because I am right. And also sometimes it's protection from people like that. So if you have a certain way of life and you think that your culture is the culture which has grown over centuries and you've got a certain pride in it and you want to maintain that culture, and suddenly a foreign invader comes in with completely different beliefs and wants to take your land and your culture and starts clubbing your people, then you're not going to take that and you're going to say, no, you don't, not with us. And you bring your own army and you say, well, you're clubbing us, we'll stab you back and kill you. So there's real conflict here and there's real change, and it all comes out of you. It all comes out of a faulty assessment of yourself. But luckily, we have the Hermit here at the end, and the Hermit is a wise old man. He is clothed in this kind of white, beige, yellowy, pure cloth. There's a temple behind him, and he's holding this lantern, this torch. He's got this collar around him and it's got brown specks in it, which means that he is grounded, but he's also connected to spirit. And he also, the reflection of the light, the yellow and orange, means that he's someone who wants to find balance in this world between being grounded and being spiritual and finding joy in that. And being disciplined enough to find that joy consistently and to teach other people how they can do that for themselves. So we've got these young people here, often the face of someone who's being taught, looking somewhat bored, but these people are very attentive, and this one seems to actively be thinking about what he's been told. The Hermit is someone who takes this torch and he shines the light of truth into himself. And he has an accurate image of himself. He knows that he tends to be somewhat arrogant. He comes from a very noble family, and his father instilled in him this belief that he is better than commoners because they have royal blood. He doesn't believe that any longer, but he realizes that he has certain tendencies towards that kind of behavior because he's looked within. We all have faults. We all have our things where we tread on other people's toes because we hold certain beliefs which are incorrect, which don't match reality. And when we take our faulty beliefs and when we then turn those into reality, that's when conflict occurs, and that's when people start clubbing each other and killing each other over these different opinions. Now, to avoid all of this, the Hermit is able to see what his behavior is and what a negative potential effect it could have. Like, for instance, if this was someone, he bought the company of these women, let's say that, then in spiritual truth, that's a real crime to pay for someone's company and presence and spirit to be with you in a physical format. It's like chaining them to you and forcing them to be around you for cash, for a trade. And it's a real, it may not seem like a grave injustice, but especially if the other people are consenting to that deal or exchange. But when you force yourself on other people who really naturally wouldn't be around you unless there was something in it for them, it's harmful to yourself and it's harmful to the other people on a spiritual level, because you're exposing them to elements which are really not right, and they have to then put up with that, and that's damaging to them to experience this unpleasantness. The Hermit understands that, and he teaches people to behave properly. And because of the Hermit's truth, you're able to transform your own behavior today so that it doesn't end up in conflict with other people, and that you don't end up hurting other people. It's also a great day to look at yourself overall and look at your behavior, and to look at the areas of your life that work and the areas of your life that do not work. If you have no friends, then look at that area of your life and ask yourself, why don't I have any friends? Maybe it's because you don't put the effort in and you just really don't talk to people. Maybe you're just not interested. Maybe you have a huge sense of arrogance, and whenever you connect with other people, you drown everyone out and you just not talk about yourself nonstop. It could be 1,000 reasons why people don't want to be your friend. And looking at those truths is hard. Seeing yourself and knowing yourself truly is a difficult thing, because it's not always pleasant. And today it certainly isn't going to be pleasant. But you have the opportunity to look at that unpleasantness and to change it. So you realize that when you're with other people, you feel insecure. And because you feel insecure, you make up stories and you talk nonstop because you want to come across as interesting and funny so that people will like you. And you realize that it's that puts people off, and that you would do much better just talking occasionally and listening at other times, and just being the right size, being the same size and just as important as everyone else at the table, and that will allow friendships to come into your life. Knowledge is the key. You can then change the behavior, and you can really amend an area of your life. If love does not come into your life, if there's no love in your life, you can look at why that may be. Are you an atheist? If you've dismissed a higher power, then you've closed the door on the love the higher power wants to send you and give you. You've just said there is no higher power. Boom, close that door and you won't receive it. If there's no love in a practical, physical sense, it may be that you're not putting yourself out there. Same thing, you're not making an effort, or you're very difficult to be around, or you think you're not lovable, so you overcompensate in certain areas. The worst things really are when we see ourselves and we see a flaw and we try and fix that flaw by overcompensating. It's much better to own that flaw and to say, do you know what? I don't feel good enough. Like this guy, for instance. He's paid these women, and now he's manspreading and he pretends to be the man. But deep down, he's a scared little boy and he feels like women don't like him and he's not enough. And that's why he has to pay for it. And if he were to look at himself and say, do you know what? If I actually accept the fact that I'm scared around women and I open up about that to my friends or to certain women in my life, and I ask them how I can work through that, people are going to be more than willing to help him. People will embrace that and say, do you know what? I'm glad you've recognized this. Let's see why you feel bad about yourself. What is it that makes you feel like you're not enough? Have you committed some crime? No. Okay. So what is actually wrong with you? What is it what faulty belief has entered your mind that you feel that these two women would not like you on their own? What's caused that? And yeah, it's a good day to have CBD, not CBD. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Yeah, CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy is where you look at your behaviors and you say, I am not good enough because, and then you write a whole list of why you're not good enough. And certain things, as soon as you see them in black and white, will be ridiculous and they'll go poof. Other things will stay there and they'll be more troubling, and you can work on those. But the main point is to recognize them, to shine that light, and to accept it, to stop the old behavior, to start transforming that so that you don't injure others, because they're both injured by being paid to be around this arrogance. And not only do you realize that for yourself, but today you're in such a good place that you've done that for yourself and you're now teaching other people about it. So you can teach them by explicitly talking about it, or you can teach them through example, as always. So it's a day to really transform who and what you are, and to take one aspect of your life and you really have the potential to change that for the better. 9 and 10 is 19, and 3 is 22. 22 is the master number of the builder. So you have the potential to really change your life forever and to really transform one area of your life by recognizing who and what you are and being brave enough to look at the unpleasant characteristic that you've got. Maybe it's envy. Maybe it's greed. Maybe it's meanness. You know, the 7 deadly sins, they exist because we all have them to some degree. So don't give yourself too much of a hard time. We all have these character defects. Look at the defect. Don't brush it under the carpet and cause war, but own it, embrace it, and hand it over to a higher power if you do believe in a higher power, or make a list and write it down and see why it's not true, like Byron Katie's The Work. Or if you want, do both. Hand it over to your higher power and say, I recognize this within myself, and make a list and then work on it both ways. And 22 is a long-lasting, long-term change and effect. So this is a day to really, really make significant improvements in your life that will reduce the amount of conflict that you experience on a day-to-day basis. So have a great day, have a life-changing day, have a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you'd like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. Click on the readings tab to order your reading. In my personal readings, I use the tarot, I use astrology and numerology. So those 3 divination systems combined show me everything about you, who you are, what your vocational talents are, what's destined for you in career and travel and money and love. If you have any questions, I can answer those. So get in touch via gregoryscott.com, order your reading there, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.